So hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and the first webinar of your orientation, Countdown to VISTA Service. You are about to embark on a year of AmeriCorps service, and this period before you start service is an opportunity to learn about AmeriCorps service and your benefits, as well as to ensure that this is the right choice for you. And I know this is a stressful time in our country with our schedules and daily lives disrupted by the spread of the coronavirus, and you likely have many questions about starting your upcoming service. And today's webinar is designed to give you a great foundation to begin to serve as an AmeriCorps member in general, and we will address some specific details that may apply to your situation at this time. But we just want to add that AmeriCorps is closely monitoring the latest developments and continuing to monitor related to coronavirus. And we have a frequently asked questions, FAQs, posted at nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. And we will continually update these as we move forward. And for now, please know that we are super grateful for your service and want to help orient you to AmeriCorps VISTA as fully as possible on this webinar. So let's get started. My name is Chris Hawks, and I'm joined here with Eric Powell. We will be your host today from AmeriCorps. You'll also see our AmeriCorps colleagues Kyle Banker, Andy King, Jen Brooks, and Gina Viner in the chat and Q&A, as well as our partners at LSI, Steve Gray and Colby Wilson. We loved seeing your comments in the chat before we began about why you chose to sign up for AmeriCorps VISTA service. And we know this is an exciting time as you're gearing up to start your service. So I'm very happy to be with you today and go through this orientation.
And as Chris said, my name is Eric Powell, and I truly want to add my welcome and thank you for joining AmeriCorps VISTA. I'm extremely happy to be with you today and help you start your year of service. I do hope that this year will be a powerful experience for you, and I look forward to helping you get started. So let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll start out with brief introductions and an overview of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Then we'll jump into some of the important details of your orientation, including major tasks to complete when you start service next week. We'll take a closer look at some of the benefits that you'll receive because we know you love to talk about those benefits, and we'll address many of the questions you have about those benefits. We'll end our session today with a quick reminder of useful resources for you and ask for your feedback on our presentation. And here's an overview of what we want to accomplish today. First and foremost, we've asked you to log on today to give our AmeriCorps staff a chance to connect with you and to help ease you into your year of service. We also know that this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new AmeriCorps members and start to build connections with colleagues across the country. We will also take time today to reinforce some of the very important details of your AmeriCorps service. We know there's a lot of information coming at you from our office and probably from your project site, and we'll highlight several critical pieces of information today. And finally, we want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where to find more answers to questions that you may have. With our limited time online today, we may not be able to answer all of your questions, so we'll work hard to do that in the question and answer session. Chris, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. It is my pleasure to give you this official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. And you are joining a national service program with a very rich history. There are roughly just over about 325 AmeriCorps VISTA members beginning service with you just this month. And currently, just over 5,000 VISTA members are serving throughout the country in rural and urban areas, all 50 states, and several U.S. territories and tribal nations. VISTA, or Volunteers in Service to America, the acronym, has been fighting poverty and building communities for more than 50 years. Our strength comes from the talent, the motivation, and energy of our members like you. So let me thank you for stepping up to share your skills and passion and to serve our communities. It truly is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. Now here on this slide in the chat, we just ask that you please take a moment to type in your answer to this question. In what city or town will you serve? As Eric mentioned, we have a lot of folks on the webinar today, so the chat will move quickly, but just kind of want to see where everyone's going to be serving. And just a note and reminder to try to select or toggle to all panelists and attendees. That way everyone on the webinar can view these answers. You can see if anyone may happen to be serving near you in the same city, same state. As you can see, a lot of answers. It's coming in quick. I'm trying to keep an eye out, always try to keep an eye out for Raleigh, North Carolina. That's my hometown. See Austin, I love Austin. I don't think I saw Raleigh, but still look her out. Puerto Rico, nice. Just give it a couple seconds, everyone, to kind of get their typing fingers stretched out. And for this webinar, we'll have a few chat questions throughout. And we know based on your AmeriCorps applications and service placements that we have members starting out this month in different communities and in many different types of AmeriCorps VISTA projects as well, serving in different ways. But thanks for those responses in your chat, and we'll move on and get a sense as well of how many folks will relocate to serve. So we just hear what town you're going to be serving in. So kind of want to know if this is your hometown or if you're going to be moving to serve there. So you should see a poll open in just a second, and just please indicate yes or no. Quick, this will be just a really quick poll just to get a little bit more information about you as to whether you're relocating in order to serve in AmeriCorps or not. If you don't see the poll, I know sometimes on mobile devices it may not appear, but feel free to just type your answer in the chat, just a yes or no if I'm relocating or not. It'll be quick. We'll just give it a few seconds. Looks like most already have their answer in. Give it another drum roll to keep this going. And we'll close it off. Okay, so we're looking at 40% and 60%. So 40% are relocating, 60 are not. That's somewhat close to the national average, probably a little higher than normal for the number relocating. So a lot of folks will be moving, it looks like. And thanks for that. It was just a quick little exercise. And for those of you who have not yet moved to your site, we are sending you all good wishes for a very safe, a very easy, pain-free move, because I know that can be stressful. Okay, and you will be joining thousands of AmeriCorps VISTA colleagues around the country to fight poverty. The VISTA program mission is to strengthen organizations that fight poverty. We do that by deploying members to serve in local community agencies. And the role of the AmeriCorps VISTA member is to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance efficiency and build capacity by raising money, by developing systems, recruiting volunteers, and really creating that lasting change. So by serving at a sponsoring organization, you are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening communities. And speaking of your organization, we have another quick chat question. Just going to ask, what is your project supervisor's name? Just give it a couple seconds. Type in the chat your supervisor's name. Could be first name, yeah, seeing that come in. Full name, nickname, or maybe I don't know. Did see one or two of those. That's fine. See the chat coming in quick. Appreciate your responses. Looks like a good amount have a good idea of who your supervisor is, which is great. See a couple, I think it's this person. I'm not positive. And that's okay. And we appreciate you sharing this. And it's just a quick activity. And for those who mention, you know, I'm not sure, or I think it's this person, but I'm not 100% sure, that's totally okay. And typically, your supervisor is going to be the person you interviewed with for the AmeriCorps position, or maybe the point of contact that you have had at the organization by emails. At this stage, still in pre-service, there may still be some information to gather, including details about your site and supervisor, and that's okay. Okay, here on this slide, we have an image that shows the AmeriCorps VISTA program structure with key partners that make your service possible. You can see there are several layers that help support VISTA projects and VISTA members like you. And first is AmeriCorps headquarters, located in Washington, D.C. AmeriCorps also has regional offices across the country. In those offices, AmeriCorps staff, AmeriCorps staff review and approve proposals for new VISTA projects and approve the placement of members into those projects. The regional office is a great resource for VISTA members who maybe have concerns about their assignment that that your supervisor cannot resolve. So you can reach out to your regional office at any time, and you can reach out to them. It's a pretty easy method by email using the state abbreviation at cns.gov. So the state you're serving in, use that state abbreviation at cns.gov. A quick example would be if you're serving in Texas, the state abbreviation is TX. So TX at cns.gov, and you can reach your regional office. And in the image, you can see the sponsoring organization is listed along with your supervisor. Your sponsor and supervisor will be your day-to-day support and provide all the details on your project work. At our AmeriCorps headquarters, you will be supported by the VISTA Training Unit and the VISTA Member Support Unit, or VMSU, among other departments. But in particular, the VMSU is a really helpful resource for questions regarding your benefits. So if you have any questions on benefits, you can reach out to the VMSU either by email. You can see that email on the slide right here, vmsu@cns.gov, or through the National Service Hotline. And to help make sense of these organizations, there is a really handy AmeriCorps VISTA resources and contacts document that's available on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. You can also find it at the link you see in the chat just now that Colby shared. The resources and contacts document is also in the email that was sent out this morning with attachments. You can find that there. It's a really handy document to kind of know who to contact in what situation. So it'd be great to have that on file or like saved as a bookmark on in your web browser. And for your AmeriCorps VISTA service, you are making a 1-year or 365-day full-time commitment to strengthen and support your community. You will strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs. You will work on projects with staff and volunteers to build capacity in your project and community. And central to your VISTA service is this important document called your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD, V-A-D. The VAD, or VISTA Assignment Description, provides the overarching goals of your project. It explains the objectives that you're working towards during your service year, and it lays out the specific activities that you will complete to accomplish those objectives. And all AmeriCorps VISTA members have a VAD, have that VISTA Assignment Description. You can find yours if for any reason you haven't seen it, or maybe you saw it during the interview process, but you don't have a copy of it now. You can find that in your My AmeriCorps portal, so my.americorps.gov on your member homepage. It'll be located there. And it's important to know that your VAD was likely written before you were recruited or selected for your project. So some updates may be in order before you dive into your service. So please be sure to check in with your supervisor, especially next week, your first week of service, and talk about whether maybe any changes would be useful for your badge, because it can be updated if needed. And when we meet again on next Tuesday's webinar, we'll go into more detail about capacity building and the unique nature of your VISTA service. So we'd ask that you please make sure you have your badge by your first day of service on hand.
So now let's move on to the next item on our agenda and talk about the phases of your orientation to the VISTA program. Today's webinar is just one part of a multifaceted orientation that all new AmeriCorps VISTA members complete. On the far left of this graphic, you can see the phases of your orientation, and you can also see some of the major tasks in the blocks to the right of each phase. This structure is also reflected in the VISTA Member Orientation checklist that you received via email and that Chris mentioned earlier. You can also find a link to the checklist in the chat now. And although you may start off by teleserving or serving from home, your supervisor will still be providing you with an on-site orientation and training to really guide you and set you up for success as you start your year of service. I strongly encourage you to print or save this checklist right away and make sure you keep it close at hand. It serves as a record for your progress through each phase of the orientation and helps you as you complete important tasks this week and beyond. The phases of your AmeriCorps VISTA orientation include pre-service, which is where you are now, then your first day of your term of service, and then finally in service when you're actually serving. It is good to know that orientation to your AmeriCorps service is an ongoing process and it involves a number of people. We know that your position will be a complex one and it takes a bit of time and effort to get you started strong. So now we'll go ahead and walk through some of the really important elements of the first two phases of your orientation. As part of your VISTA member orientation, you are required to complete several courses and tutorials online. These online courses are located on the Starting VISTA Service page of the vistacampus.gov website, and they must also be completed before you begin service. Please note, the Terms and Conditions course is linked to your my.americorps.gov account, so you can certify your acceptance there. You must accept the Terms and Conditions of Service in order to start service as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. We also know that there's a lot to do before Tuesday, and again, you can keep track of your progress on the coursework and the required forms using the VISTA Member Orientation checklist. And in addition to the coursework on the VISTA campus, you will need to complete your onboarding forms, which include a direct deposit form for your living allowance, which we know is important and something you really appreciate, but also a form for your federal tax withholding, known as a W-4, the unpaid compensation information form, and the end of service benefit selection. All of these forms are located in your my.americorps.gov account. If you have not completed these already, please plan on doing it right away because we need these forms to officially enroll you in AmeriCorps and to process your living allowance and other service benefits. There are a number of benefits available to members, and if you haven't done so already, please go through all of the information on the VISTA campus. In just a few minutes, we will also talk through some of your most important benefits and highlight some critical details. To start, here is one really big to-do item on your orientation checklist. As you probably already know, you will be required to undergo a background investigation prior to starting service, which includes securely submitting information online to complete a background check at no cost to you. You will receive an email from support@checkr.com with instructions on how to securely submit the required information for the background check. Once you receive the email, you must complete the online background check information within 7 days of receipt. Please ensure that your email address in My AmeriCorps is correct and up to date. That's our primary method of communication. And also, as a reminder, you are required to submit the online background check within 7 days of receiving the email, and we certainly recommend you do it even sooner than 7 days. Failure to complete the background check requirements on time could result in a delay in your service start date, and we really don't want that to happen. If you have any questions on this background criminal history process, please send an email to vistafingerprint@cns.gov. This email address is also listed on the Resources and Contacts PDF document that was shared earlier. The other part of this process is comparing your background check results to what you disclosed on your AmeriCorps application. You probably recall that when you applied to serve as an AmeriCorps VISTA member, you were asked if you had ever been convicted of a crime. It's possible you didn't disclose everything in your AmeriCorps application for any number of reasons. If you fail to disclose any conviction in your AmeriCorps application, now is the time to fix that problem. To do that, you will need to fill out the member disclosure form, and to get the form, you would contact vistafingerprint@cns.gov to obtain the member disclosure form for completion. When your FBI background investigation is completed, we will compare the results to your disclosures in your AmeriCorps application and your disclosure form. If everything aligns, you will not hear from us. If there is a conviction that you have not disclosed to us, AmeriCorps will have extensive follow-up with you and your supervisor to get more details. And depending on the specific conviction, it's possible that you would not be able to serve. Again, we really, really, really don't want that to happen. So please be completely upfront in your criminal history questionnaire. We recommend that you err on the side of caution so we can work with you to fully assess the situation.
Okay, so next up, let's talk about getting ready for your first day of service. You will be serving in a professional work environment, and you'll certainly want to set yourself up for success. If you'll be serving on site, you'll want to confirm details like the address where you need to report and the time you should arrive on your first day, maybe the dress code of the organization, the parking situation if you happen to be driving, or any other special considerations such as the average commute time, or if you should maybe bring anything with you, certain paperwork or identification or anything of that regard. If you have been approved to teleserve until it is safe for you to serve on site, you also want to confirm similar details, but like a start time for Tuesday, like what time you should sign on, and a schedule for your remote orientation and training. So if you haven't done so already, you'll also want to make sure your workstation is set up prior to Tuesday morning to teleserve effectively. If you will be teleserving at any point, whether entirely or maybe only on certain days of the week, please be sure to complete the teleservice agreement form, which needs to be signed by both you and your supervisor. Electronic signatures are fine for this. You don't necessarily need to print it out. You can just do an e-signature. And the form can be found on the VISTA campus. You can also find it in the helpful links handout that was emailed this morning. And we're also posting a link to this in the chat. Yes, Colby just posted a link to the teleservice document in the chat. If for any reason you are unable to begin your service on Tuesday, please make sure you contact your supervisor or regional office as soon as possible. And please let us know as well by responding to any of the emails you received from the VISTA training units. You can just shoot a quick response if there's any confusion about the start date, and if you were told differently, it's totally okay. We just want to know so we can get all your details up to date. In whatever your situation, don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out to your supervisor. They're there to help with your onboarding process. Like just noticed someone mentioned like they weren't sure if they're teleserving or serving on site on their first date. That's definitely something, yeah, you'll want to reach out to your supervisor or your point of contact with your site to clarify that this week. And again, if you aren't sure who that point of contact may be, you'll want to reach out to your regional office. That's who we mentioned you can reach out to using the state abbreviation at cns.gov. And your first day of service will be Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. That day will likely begin your orientation to your project site and your specific duties. Your supervisor may have prepared a formal agenda for you and scheduled meetings or other activities on day one. And these activities, these day one schedules, vary from project to project. So we recommend checking in with your supervisor about what to expect and maybe what materials you'll need on your first day. And along with starting your on-site orientation on Tuesday, AmeriCorps headquarters will present your second orientation webinar called Launching Your VISTA Service. We'll be back online with you for that webinar, Launching Your VISTA Service, from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's the exact same time as this webinar next Tuesday. And as with this webinar, you will receive an email with participation details. You'll get a reminder with the link and any handouts. And on the webinar, we'll go a little deeper into the AmeriCorps VISTA program, your VAD or VISTA assignment description, and member resources. We'll also have time again for Q&A, questions and answers, to make sure you're in good shape for your first week of service. So if you think of a question after this webinar and you're like, shoot, I wish I would have asked that, totally fine. We'll have another chance next week on Tuesday's webinar. And on Tuesday, we'll also administer the oath of service, officially swearing you into VISTA service.
Now we're going to take a closer look at a critical piece of the AmeriCorps VISTA program, the terms and conditions of your service. As you know by now, there is a required course on the VISTA campus that covers the rules of participation in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, essentially, what's allowable while you are serving as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. Since AmeriCorps VISTA members are bound by a variety of laws, regulations, and other rules, we want to make sure that you understand them from day one so that you can feel comfortable in your VISTA role. If you have already completed the terms and conditions course, our next activity should be quite easy and a review for you. But if you haven't yet completed the course, this will help you underscore the importance of it. So let's talk about what we're going to do. We'll present several scenarios, or some people pronounce it scenarios, but I'm going to say scenario, and ask you to indicate yes or no in the chat. And you can just type a Y for yes or N for no for each scenario. So here's the first one. I can voice my political opinions using social media where my profile identifies me as an AmeriCorps member. Per the terms and conditions that you either took or will soon be taking, are members allowed to do this? I see quite a few no's, some yeses. Looks like some people are still trying to decide what they think their answer is, which is certainly fine. We know this is a learning environment and everyone's trying to prepare for VISTA service. A lot more no's coming in, a couple of yeses. I think I saw one unsure. Give it a couple more seconds just to see if there's anything else that comes through. But we appreciate you working on this activity as we all understand the terms and conditions of VISTA service. So let's go ahead and see what the answer is. The answer is yes. You can have AmeriCorps listed on your personal social media profile and voice your own personal political opinion as part of your online life. However, of course there's a however, you cannot represent yourself as a spokesperson for AmeriCorps, the VISTA program, or your sponsor. Additionally, you can voice political opinions on your own time, but not while serving at your site or while teleserving, nor while using any of the equipment at your site, including their Wi-Fi network or your office computer. Also, you definitely should not put the AmeriCorps logo as your profile picture when voicing political or other sensitive opinions on social media. When in doubt, and we know sometimes there's a lot of questions, keep your AmeriCorps service and political activity completely separate to avoid those obstacles.
Okay, here's the second scenario. I can demonstrate in a political rally. So per the AmeriCorps VISTA terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? And similar to how Eric explained, just a yes or no, Y or N in the chat. We'll give it a few seconds, make sure everyone can get their answer in. Already see a lot of responses. Looks like mostly yes. Saw a U in there. Not sure. I guess U is next to the Y. Fun note, my Y is not working very well on my keyboard, so maybe I would have pressed U as well. Sure, but no shirt. Yes, it's not AmeriCorps logo. Okay, thanks for these responses. I definitely see, it looks, I would say 95% yes coming in. So let's look at, maybe U means unsure. That's a good point. Good point, Frank. Yes. So the answer is yes. The vast majority of you did get that correct. You can demonstrate in a political rally on your own time, and as long as you are not identified as an AmeriCorps member or perceived to be an AmeriCorps member. Now, that perceived to be an AmeriCorps member is an important consideration, because some of you may be serving in a really small town or a local area where you're not necessarily wearing your AmeriCorps gear, but people happen to know that you are an AmeriCorps member. So if for any sticky situations or when in doubt about a specific activity, it's best to avoid it initially and then consult with your supervisor or your AmeriCorps regional office for clarification. Your regional office would be a great source for that.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a U was actually an upside down N, but you all are much more creative than I am. So way to go. Keep that coming. So the next one you can see on the screen is, what do you think about this one? I can ask people to donate money to a partisan political candidate as long as it's on my own time and I'm not identified as an AmeriCorps member. Seeing some no's and yeses, and right now it looks like maybe it's about 50-50. Still see a lot of responses coming in. And again, we know some of you have already taken the course, so hopefully you are the ones getting it correct. See a lot of responses coming in, too fast for me to actually read, but I'm going to assume that they are all good and correct. No's, yeses. Let's go ahead and take a look at the answer. So the answer to this one is no, and that is a very important no, and we'll explain why. You cannot raise money on behalf of a partisan political candidate at any time during your AmeriCorps year. It doesn't matter if it's off-duty or at home or while not identified as an AmeriCorps member. There's a federal law called the Hatch Act, and it prohibits all fundraising for partisan political candidates. You can, however, raise funds in support of an issue or a cause on your own time and when you are not identified as an AmeriCorps member.
Okay, here's our last scenario. I can have outside employment and or earn additional income while serving as an AmeriCorps member. So again, per the terms and conditions, are you allowed to do this? Yes or no in the chat. Again, we'll give it a few, 30 seconds or so, just make sure everyone gets their answer in. Although this one, typically most get it right. Looks like we're getting a lot of yeses, some maybes, yes with permission, as long as approved. I love these conditions that you're adding. I guess you've noticed there's a theme with some of these responses with the answers we're giving to some of these terms and conditions. It's either a yes or a no, but, yes and, but. Okay, looks like most have answered. Get a little drum roll, and the answer is yes. So vast majority of you got that correct. You may have outside part-time employment while serving in AmeriCorps, but we bring this question up because there are a few key rules to keep in mind with this. So first up, outside employment must not conflict with your project service or service hours, nor can it conflict with any applicable law or AmeriCorps VISTA program requirements or policies. That last part is probably obvious, but the big thing here is it can't conflict with your service hours. Also, under no circumstances may an AmeriCorps VISTA member be an employee of or contractor for the sponsor or project to which they are assigned to serve. So you can't have a part-time employment with your project or your sponsor. Also, your supervisor must approve and agree that the outside work will not interfere with the AmeriCorps project. If the work does interfere, the member may be asked to either end employment or to end AmeriCorps service. Only part-time outside employment is allowed while serving as an AmeriCorps VISTA member. And you have to request and receive approval for outside employment from your project supervisor. So there's an employment request form that can be found on the VISTA campus. And you can also find more information regarding the outside employment policy, some FAQs, at a link that we will insert into the chat. You can see it right there, vistacampus.gov. And you see it on the slide as well, but this outside employment policy link is also in the helpful links document that was sent this morning. That might make it easier as well to locate that. It's just a one-pager. It's not a long form to complete, and it's usually pretty straightforward, and rarely are there issues. The main issues are what we just described. You know, it can't conflict with your service hours or duties, and the other bullets here as well. But it's a quick form. I know you have a lot of forms, but I promise this won't take long. Okay, great. Well, thank you for going through these scenarios and participating. And while the terms and conditions of your AmeriCorps service contain many rules, we know that these 4 issues in particular do happen to raise a lot of questions for new members. And again, we want you to feel comfortable getting started as an AmeriCorps member. So please don't hesitate to reach out to your supervisor or AmeriCorps regional office if you have more questions about these activities. And again, as Eric mentioned, many of you have already completed it, but if not, you'll need to complete the full terms and conditions course and indicate you've completed it in your My AmeriCorps account.
So now we're going to take a look at some of the benefits that you will have as an AmeriCorps member. Again, we do want to draw your attention to a few key items today because they are time sensitive, and you'll be able to find a lot more details about all the AmeriCorps member benefits on the VISTA campus. This page of the VISTA campus contains an overview of all of your benefits. There are some benefits, such as the living allowance, that are available to all AmeriCorps VISTA members. Other benefits may only apply to some members, such as child care assistance. We want to make sure that you review all of this information carefully. Right now, we'll walk through just some of the benefits that seem to generate the most questions from our members. So we'll start by talking about the living allowance, since that's applicable to all members. From the benefits page on the VISTA campus, you can find a good deal of detail on the living allowance benefit. There's also additional links at the bottom of this page under the resources link, including tips for how to make the most of the living allowance. Here you will also find a living allowance calendar, and you'll be able to access the living allowance rates. Keep in mind that the rates of pay do vary across the country, so please check out this link to confirm the rates for your area. These links are also included in the helpful links handout for today's session. Quick question for you here. Do you know when you will be getting your first payment? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat if you think you know the first date of your living allowance payment. I see no's and yeses. You can also type the date if you know the answer. But I see quite a few people are unsure. Maybe they haven't checked with their supervisor. February 5th, January 29th, January 19th. A couple of different dates coming in. Looks like a lot of people February 5th, February 2nd. Looks like a lot of people are unsure and maybe just haven't gotten that information yet, which don't worry, we will certainly give you the answer. The answer is your first living allowance is scheduled to be on February 5th, 2021. Most VISTA members are paid directly by AmeriCorps every 2 weeks, typically on Fridays. However, some members are paid directly by their sponsoring organization, and their pay calendar may be slightly different. Your supervisor can tell you if you will be paid by them and share their pay schedule. Federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. You must determine your own level of responsibility for state taxes. And to do that, we suggest that you check in with your state tax office for more details. And if you are paid by AmeriCorps headquarters, you can access your living allowance statement in my.americorps.gov. If you are paid directly by your VISTA sponsor, you will receive pay statements from them. In order to ensure that you receive your living allowance, it's critical to complete the direct deposit information correctly. Now, this should be pretty common sense, but we'll explain why. If either the routing number or the account number you entered for direct deposit is not correct, you will not receive your living allowance payment as scheduled. And you should note that if that's the case, you will then have to wait at least 2 additional weeks until the next pay period to be paid. So you want to make sure that you look for the routing number and the account number on your checks if you have them, or go to your online banking site, call your bank, whatever you have to do to make sure you enter the correct routing number and account number. People oftentimes accidentally transpose numbers, and there's a delay in fixing it. You may also want to call your bank, as we mentioned, just to be sure you have the correct information. So please take the time to double check that the numbers are accurate and correct in your my.americorps.gov account.
And after successfully completing your AmeriCorps year of service, you are eligible for one of 2 benefits: the Education Award or the cash stipend. For the Education Award, that can be used to pay any qualified federal student loans or to pay for education at any Title IV institution, which is an institution that accepts federal funds. You have 7 years to use it, and you don't have to use it all at one time. You can use it in increments. You cannot, however, transfer it to anyone else. It's only for you. And then for the cash stipend is paid out by direct deposit at the very end of your service. The most important detail to know right now is that if you are unsure of which benefit to choose, we suggest that you select the Education Award right now, because then you have up until the end of your 10th month of service to switch to the cash stipend if you wish to. Once you start service, you are not able to switch from the cash stipend to the Education Award, so it doesn't work both ways. So basically, what we're saying is when you choose the cash stipend, it's a final decision. But if you select the Education Award, you have some flexibility up until your 10th month of service to make a change. That's if you're kind of unsure of which one to choose. That's why we mentioned this. And more specific details regarding Education Award eligibility, institutions that may match the Education Award, and other things to know can be found on vistacampus.gov as well as on AmeriCorps.gov. If you have student loans now, there are ways you can postpone repayment of federally backed student loans during your year of service. And this depends on which award you choose, the Education Award or the cash stipend. If you choose the Education Award, you can request forbearance for your federally backed student loans, which means you do not make monthly loan payments during your year of service. And you can ask the National Service Trust to pay the accrued interest on your federal loan after you complete your year. Just be aware that the interest payment is considered taxable income in that year. Federal loan forbearance is not guaranteed, and you must initiate the process by submitting a loan forbearance request in your MyAmeriCorps account. You can't do that yet, but you will be able to do this approximately 1 week into your service. About a week after you start, you'll have a link that appears in your MyAmeriCorps account called My Education Award, and it'll be on the left-hand side of your member homepage. Now, if you select the end of service cash stipend or you have private student loans, you may request loan deferment. And that means you apply directly with your lender, giving the reason of economic hardship. You may be able to have your accrued interest paid by the Federal Department of Education if you have federally subsidized loans that are deferred. And you may be able to have a portion of your Perkins loans forgiven if you have Perkins loans. Loan deferment as well is not guaranteed, and it may not be offered by all lenders. So that's something you should check with your lender for specifics. And to note, neither of these will happen automatically. You will need to request them through the appropriate process, either in My AmeriCorps portal for forbearance or with the bank that holds your loan for deferment. And for more details on everything we just covered, you can go to the Education Award tutorial on on AmeriCorps.gov website. It was previously nationalservice.gov /resources/edaward. There's an edaward tutorial there, but both links would work if you use National Service or AmeriCorps there. And that link is in the helpful links document today, so you don't need to take a screenshot or jot that down. You can use the handouts helpful links that was emailed this morning. And for a quick recap, a reminder on a reminder on the forbearance process. So after you have officially started service, about a week afterwards, you can go to your My AmeriCorps account to submit your loan forbearance request with AmeriCorps. Remember that it is your responsibility to submit the forbearance request and check on its status. And then at the end of your year, it's also your responsibility to submit any education award payment requests in My AmeriCorps, as well as interest accrual payment requests from the National Service Trust.
We'll move on now to talk about healthcare benefits. As you probably know, the AmeriCorps VISTA program offers two different health benefit options. One is for members who have health coverage, such as private insurance or Medicaid. The other is for members who do not have health coverage. So, if you do have health insurance or other coverage, you are eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Healthcare Allowance, which provides a reimbursement up to $8,550 for qualifying out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. You can use the healthcare allowance towards out-of-pocket expenses, such as co-payments for office visits, services, or prescriptions, medications and medical supplies, or meeting your annual deductible. The allowance will not reimburse you for the cost of buying health insurance or paying monthly premiums. If you do not have any health coverage now, you are eligible to enroll in the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Benefit Plan. This is a safety net plan that covers basic healthcare needs, and it covers many basic services with very low copays, but it does have some limitations, and it does not cover pre-existing conditions. There is no deductible for the health benefit plan, and both of these options include limited dental and vision benefits, and also include a teledoc service for phone and video healthcare with board-certified and licensed doctors. Both benefit options are free. We know we love the word free, so nothing is deducted from your living allowance, no matter which option you choose. Both options only cover you, the AmeriCorps member. To receive a benefit, you must enroll. There is no automatic enrollment. In about 2 weeks, you will get an email from IMG, which is the AmeriCorps VISTA Health Plan Administrator, with instructions on how to enroll. And given the current situation and concerns about testing for COVID-19, the best source for information is the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. Please be sure to follow their guidance on who should be tested and the measures for testing. If testing for COVID-19 is recommended, testing is covered under both the health benefit plan and the healthcare allowance. And if an AmeriCorps VISTA member is diagnosed with COVID-19, both the health benefit plan and the healthcare allowance will cover medically necessary care in accordance with the benefit plan. VISTA members who want to seek coverage through the health insurance marketplace can take advantage of a special enrollment period of 60 days from the start and end dates of your AmeriCorps service. You will need to go to healthcare.gov to shop for plans and see what subsidies you qualify for. To enroll for these benefits during the special enrollment period, you will need to call the marketplace. Let's talk now about public assistance benefits and how they may be impacted by your AmeriCorps VISTA service benefits. If you are already receiving public assistance, such as TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or LIHEAP, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, then your VISTA Living Allowance or any other payments you receive from the AmeriCorps VISTA program should not affect the level of assistance you receive. Likewise, in applying for new public assistance benefits, your living allowance should not be factored in when determining the level of benefits you receive. The sole exception to this provision, and this is important because it comes up a lot, is SNAP, formerly called food stamps. If you enroll in SNAP now or at any time during your year of service, your living allowance and other AmeriCorps VISTA payments will be counted as income in calculating your eligibility and benefit level for SNAP. If you were already receiving SNAP prior to enrolling in the AmeriCorps VISTA program, your benefit will remain unchanged. This is important because public benefits are managed by state or local entities, and AmeriCorps is not involved in how they administered, so you'll want to speak with a caseworker for specific advice in these areas. And depending on your location, it's possible that some of these offices have become extremely busy and overwhelmed, so if you do need advice, keep in mind that it may take a long time for the state or local office to respond. In about 2 weeks, you'll be able to access, view, and print your service letters from your homepage in my.americorps.gov. When applying for public assistance, for example, you'll probably want to print a letter that cites the authority for what's called income disregard from your account.
And as an AmeriCorps VISTA member, you have certain leave benefits available as well during your year of service. So you have 10 days of personal leave and 10 days of sick leave available to you. But make sure to read the VISTA member handbook regarding the time periods you are permitted to use your leave. Additionally, you will be able to observe the national holidays that are recognized by your service site. So, for example, if your site observes Labor Day as a day off, then you would also have that day off. However, you do not get excused leave for federal holidays that are not recognized by your site. So if your site does not give its staff a holiday for Veterans Day, then you are expected to serve on that day. You and your supervisor will monitor your time and attendance. That's a big question that often comes up, especially on this webinar and just kind of pre-service in general. So your supervisor will let you know how to submit timesheets and all of that. It will be done at your site, not in My AmeriCorps or anything like that. So similar to timesheets with leave as well, your supervisor will be monitoring the time and attendance and leave requests and making sure everything's up to date, all is well, and everything is tracked. And so send any leave requests to your supervisor. And there are other benefits available to AmeriCorps VISTA members. And as Eric was mentioning previously, some benefits may not apply to you. And those could include benefits like relocation and childcare. So we saw earlier, like 40% here are relocating. So if you have relocated more than 50 miles from your home of record to your service site, or if you will be relocating within 45 days, you may qualify for a relocation travel allowance and one-time settling in allowance. If you are eligible for financial travel support, you should have already received communication from the VMSU, from the VISTA Member Support Unit, which includes a relocation form for you to complete and return. If you relocated or plan to relocate more than 50 miles to your service site, but you have not received that email, you haven't received any confirmation or any information about this relocation form, or if you have any questions about relocation that you need to submit, you can inquire by emailing vmsu@cns.gov. So you see the VISTA Member Support Unit's email address on this slide. You can contact them for any relocation questions. In addition, AmeriCorps VISTA offers a child care benefit to members who qualify. To qualify, you must meet specific eligibility requirements, such as household income limits, and you must be the parent or legal guardian of a child under 13 who lives with you. And for more information on the child care benefit and how to apply, you can visit AmeriCorpsChildCare.com. So I know that was a lot of information. We covered a lot, and As you have heard, as an AmeriCorps member, you have access to a lot of benefits during your year of service. And we hope that you now have a better idea of at least how to find out more about those benefits, where you can go to find more information, and also what action steps are needed to access those benefits. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a few minutes to address some of the questions you've submitted in the Q&A, and Eric and I will try to pull out questions that should apply to most everyone. And if some of the questions happen to be more personal in nature, we'll continue to answer those in the Q&A pod. But we'll spend a few minutes right now before we wrap up the webinar to look at some of these questions that have come in. So give me a second to bring this up. And Eric, I didn't know if you'd already identified any or saw any that we should address.
I do see a couple of thank you that look relevant to everyone. And it looks like there were some people that were concerned, or not concerned, that had questions about the living allowance in terms of, does it come biweekly or once per month or twice per month? And in which month will we be receiving? That's a mouthful. In which month will we receive direct deposit? So quickly going back to that, most vistas are paid directly by AmeriCorps headquarters, and we pay you every 2 weeks. Sometimes where the confusion is, if your supervisor told you how much you're getting paid, they probably told you the monthly amount. You would have to do the math to calculate how much you'd get every 2 weeks. But we pay you every 2 weeks, and it is via direct deposit. So again, make sure your information in my.americorps.gov is correct. And as we said, you should expect your first living allowance payment to be on, I believe we said February 5th.
Yep. And kind of along that note, I did see a couple of questions on the relocation benefit and how that factors into the first paycheck on February 5th. So there's two aspects of the relocation benefit. There's the one-time settling in allowance, and there's the mileage for how many miles, the mileage reimbursement. So the one-time settling in allowance is included in your first living allowance payment on February 5th. But it's separate from the mileage. The mileage reimbursement is in the form of a voucher that'll be posted on should be posted on your first day of service, or if not your first day, definitely your first week of service. And that's a voucher that you'll need to sign and send back to the VMSU, and that'll be direct deposited separately. So the mileage reimbursement won't be included in your living allowance, but the settling in allowance will be. I see another.
Go
ahead, Eric.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to quickly switch topics and say there were a few questions quickly on, now I just lost it, on the outside employment form. And so yes, if you expect to have outside employment at any point, or if you currently have outside employment and plan to continue that into your VISTA service, you would need to fill out the form, even if it's not necessarily even if it's not a scheduled 20-hour-a-week job. If you do this activity part-time on occasion, you still want to fill out the form just so it's on file and so that we have it on record that you are receiving outside income. As Chris said earlier, you can find the form on the VISTA campus. You can just search outside employment, or you can locate it on the Helpful Links handout. But you want to make sure you submit that and input the information just so that your supervisor and your AmeriCorps regional office are aware of the hours and the expectations so that there's no conflict.
And I saw a couple questions throughout with regards to tracking courses. Like a few mentioned, I think I've completed all my forms and pre-service coursework, but I'm not 100% certain. And yeah, that's a common question. So on the VISTA campus, the pre-service coursework, there's a few of them. So that includes the terms and conditions, the civil rights and responsibilities. So for a couple of them, like the terms and conditions, you have to go through the course on the VISTA campus and then confirm that you completed it in your My AmeriCorps account. on the VISTA campus, it doesn't automatically track and say you've completed all of these. That is something we're working on, and ideally it would, but that's why we recommend that VMO checklist, so that you could just look through, okay, I completed this coursework, I'm good. With regards to the forms, you can certainly track, or you can go into your My AmeriCorps account and make sure all your forms are complete through the various tabs on the left-hand side, like your direct deposit, your W-4, your unpaid compensation information, your end of service benefits selection. Those you can see if you've completed or not in your My AmeriCorps account. And just on that note, just because I saw another question on the end of service benefit where we mentioned, if you're not sure, you may want to select the education award because you have that flexibility to change up to your 10th month of service. Someone asked if I already selected the cash stipend, can I change it now? Yes, you can change it right now while you're pre-service. In these coming days, or even up to this weekend, if you want to investigate a little bit more, you could still make that change in your My AmeriCorps account to the cash stipend or education award. But once your start date comes on next Tuesday, that's that deadline day where you can't make any changes from the cash stipend to the education award.
I saw a couple of questions about leave time. How much leave time do we have? Do we get paid for federal holidays, et cetera? So the quick answer is yes. As you know, out of your 365 days that you're officially a VISTA, you get paid and are included to have 10 medical days and 10 personal days as part of your service. So you are paid for those days off that you request from your supervisor and to use those 10 personal and 10 sick days. In addition, you also get any federal holiday that your organization observes. So if your organization observes President's Day or Veterans Day as a single day off, you would also get that day off, and yes, you'd be paid for that day off. The exception is sometimes some VISTA projects close down for a week or two, either over the winter holidays or for some special occurrence. For any long extended period of a project being temporarily closed for vacation, you would not automatically get all of that time off. You would have to work with your supervisor to either take personal leave during that time or find a way to still serve. But yes, you do get paid for federal holidays. And one other quick question I'll answer, I saw it going in the chat. Just as a reminder, it's not related to benefits, but yes, the webinar next week is Tuesday, February 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern, same time as this one. And there were some questions about what do I do if I have a conflict with my schedule. Please let your supervisor know that the webinar next week called Launching Your VISTA Service is required. It's where we give you more information about the VISTA program, and the really important piece is we officially swear you into VISTA service. Your supervisor should already know that it's a required webinar, so you may just need to remind them, but please make sure that you are on next Tuesday's webinar at 3 p.m. Eastern. Chris, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. I'm seeing a few questions here on the impact of the living allowance that Eric was mentioning with regards to your service letters, and how the living allowance may or may not impact current benefits. So, for example, someone asked if it would affect, I'm receiving Medicaid. Will the living allowance affect that? No, it won't. So the living allowance will not affect it in that case. You should, still report the income you're receiving because you're supposed to report that. But that's where that letter that Eric mentioned, the income disregard for public benefits, will be available to you in your portal. So if anyone has any questions at the agency that about this income, you can show that, and it shows the legislative language on why the VISTA living allowance would not impact that benefit. And again, for SNAP, that's kind of different as well. Whereas if you're already receiving SNAP benefits, the living allowance will not impact that. But if you apply for SNAP after you start serving, then your living allowance will be counted towards that. That same service letter notes that language. And there are other questions about if the living allowance will affect my current unemployment. And we don't have a definite answer to that just because it varies by state, from state to state. Certain states, it will impact if you're receiving unemployment benefits right now, the living allowance income will impact it. In other states, it won't. So, but you would have to check with your state official or agency in that regard to see if there will be an impact.
The only other question I see, and I know Chris, you did a really good job of explaining it earlier, but I'll just reiterate it, is around the education award and can it be used to pay for current student loans, or does it have to only be used for grad school? Just a reminder, a couple of really quick things. One, the education award, if you select it now, it only becomes available for you to use after you complete your service. So you would not be able to use the education award while you're in service because it's an end of service benefit. But it is available to be used at any Title IV institution. That's an institution that accepts federal funds. So that's oftentimes a lot of loan lenders. It could be graduate school. It could be a non-traditional school. Any Title IV institution should accept the education award, and it's valid for 7 years after you complete service. So make sure you use it before it expires. Oh, and the final thing I should mention is, with the VISTA program, the education award is only available for you. It is not transferable. So if you select the education award, just know that only you can use it.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, there's still some questions in there, but I know Kyle and Gina and Jen and Andy are rapidly answering those as well, and we'll continue to answer those throughout the end of this webinar. We'll try to answer every single question. So, but we will move on in the interest of time to kind of finish out the webinar.
And we really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk through some of your questions. We know it's a lot to manage, it's a lot to think about, but we do want to make sure that you're prepared. And also, we will have time for more questions and answers on next Tuesday's webinar. We'll be able to address some of those topics at that time. But for the sake of time now, we're going to turn our attention to some online resources that you have access to. We'll remind you of a few things to do this week, and then we'll close out our session. I'm sure you remember that these are the two websites that have figured prominently today and in many emails you've received from AmeriCorps. Please make sure to bookmark these sites so you can easily and quickly access them at any time. Don't forget that the my.americorps.gov website is the My AmeriCorps portal, or sometimes we just call it the portal. This is the website where you apply for your AmeriCorps position, where you complete your direct deposit and other onboarding forms, and where you can access your VISTA assignment description. It's also where, in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to access your living allowance statements, request some of the benefits we discussed today, and print or save a service letter that verifies your AmeriCorps VISTA service. And the VISTA campus is located at vistacampus.gov. This is the website where you complete your onboarding coursework and tutorials, and later will be able to access additional trainings and materials. We recommend that you explore the VISTA campus early and often. Take the time to really understand how it works and make it work for you, because it's an important resource to help you navigate your year of service, access additional training opportunities, and a whole lot more. Here's a quick look at the Learning Resources section to give you a sense of the breadth of information available to you. And one of the reasons why we know a lot of AmeriCorps VISTA members like the campus is because you can also locate and reach out to other AmeriCorps VISTA members using the VISTA map and the VISTA forums on the campus.
Okay, and we just have a couple more slides here left in our session today. Here's one last reminder about the coursework, the onboarding forms, and the criminal history check that are due. And be sure to use the VISTA Member Orientation checklist, that VMO checklist, to keep track as your work of your work as you work your way through the list. And finally today, we'd love to hear your feedback on our presentation. We love to know, what worked well, how can we improve this presentation, because we do take your feedback and we do use it to try to improve the webinars for future VISTA members. It doesn't take long, it's a short survey, so we'd really appreciate if you could just take a couple moments to complete it. We are sharing, looks like Colby shared a link in the chat for that, and it should automatically pop up as you close out of Zoom as well. But again, we thank you in advance for any feedback you can provide there. And with that, just a quick revisit to our objectives. So today, I hope that we have started to build some new connections and maybe put faces to names, and that we helped clarify some of the complexity of starting your AmeriCorps service, because it's a lot, and we get it, it is a lot. And we know this is a busy time for you, and there's a lot of information coming to you every which way, but we hope today's discussion helped clarify some of the AmeriCorps requirements and helped you know where you can go to find more information or to find information quickly. So thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar. We'll try to look at the Q&A to see if there's any final questions and answer those individually. But from all of us here at AmeriCorps, thank you for joining the AmeriCorps team. We look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday, the 19th at 3 p.m., the exact same time, for our Launching Your VISTA Service webinar. But aside from that, I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and thank you so much.